Welcome back for another episode. Today what we're going to be talking about is how to choose the right rims for your car. Before we get started, I'd like to do some shout outs for some friends of mine. Go check out a channel called Monday Mods by Anthony. He does really amazing DIY videos, especially also on the GTR. Great content. Go ahead and also check out my buddy James Brooks on Brooks's channel on YouTube. I'll go ahead and post some links below as well. And then my buddy Met Tab has a really great Instagram around the Nissan GTR and all of his builds. So go ahead and check those out and we'll go ahead and get into the video. The first part of picking your wheel is making sure that it has the correct center bore for your wheel. So it will sit right on the hub. The hub is actually what ends up bearing the weight of the wheel for your car. A lot of people think that it is the lug nuts. The lug nuts do bear a little bit of the weight, but they mainly hold on the wheel. So we'll go ahead and get on to the next part. So the next step of choosing your rim is choosing the right width of your wheel. So you have two options. You can go with all around as the same size, or you can end up choosing a staggered fitment. On my Nissan GTR, I went with a staggered fitment because when I'm racing or I'm deciding to get on the throttle, all of my power is actually going to the rear, and so I want my front just a little bit lighter and not as wide as well. I really like the staggered fitment, and so my rear wheels are 11.5 in the rear and my front are 10.5 in the front. And so also depending on how much power you're making will depend on kind of the size of width of rim that you end up needing for your car. And so if you end up running smaller wheels or smaller rims for your car and running bigger tires, in that case, like for drag racing, anything like that, the tire or the air is a lot lighter than having an actual rim. So some people will also run a 15-inch wheel in the front and rear when they're drag racing or just running it in the rear. So let's get to the next step. The next step is that there are multiple different types of wheels that you can buy. You can end up buying a casting wheel that's made by a cast. You can buy a flow forming wheel, or you can end up buying a forged wheel. When choosing the correct wheels for your car, I always recommend on doing research on all three and what type of wheel that you specifically want for your car. The next step in choosing your rims is making sure you have the correct bolt pattern for the rims that you do choose. For a Nissan GTR, they are 5x114.3, which also means that my rims have 5 lugs, where you'll notice some cars only have 4 lugs. So when you're ordering your new rims or your new tires, always make sure that your rims have the correct lug pattern. So one of the hardest things when choosing wheels is trying to decide on what type of offset you need. There's positive, there's negative, and then there's an offset that's just right at 0. And how do you know what to choose? Well, the offset is the distance from the mounting point of the hub to the center line of the wheel, which is what helps you stick out the wheel or push the wheel in, just depending on the type of look that you are going for. And so choosing that correct offset for your car is what's really going to make your wheels really stick out, really look good, and not just look like that they're just sucked up in your fender. For a Nissan GTR, I went with a 25mm offset in the front and 30mm in the offset in the rear, which does let my tire just stick out just barely enough. And so if I do end up lowering it, I can just tuck those right up under there and they'll look good. Start of the video, I kind of touched on how to choose the right height, how to choose the right width. Now when you're choosing the rim size, you'll see numbers such as 17x8, or like these ones are 20x10.5, which means that they're a 20-inch rim by 10.5 inches wide. And so my rim size is actually 10.5 inches wide, and my rims are actually 20 inches tall. So moving on to the next area. So at the start of the video, I touched on a little bit on choosing a staggered fitment for your wheels or choosing the same wheel size all the way around. I personally like the staggered fitment because when I go and get on my throttle, I know that a lot of my power is actually going to be distributed out to my rear wheels, and then they'll be slowly moved up to my all-wheel drive to where everything kicks in all at once. And so I know a lot of my power is going to end up coming from my rear, and so I wanted my rear a little bit wider, whereas my fronts, I didn't want them quite as wide to also save on some of that weight as well. So if you have a rear wheel drive car, you can also do that. If you have a front wheel drive car, you can also do that. But I would always recommend that if you have a front wheel drive car, I would just do all 4 rims the same. If you have a rear wheel drive car, I would recommend going wider in the back and not so wide in the front, but honestly it really just comes down to preference and kind of the look that you're going for. Thank you for watching another video on my channel. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. I'm gonna have plenty more content coming out around my Nissan GTR and other DIYs and other things I'm gonna be doing on the car. And so go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and stay tuned.